Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today, season 6, episode 4. And we got our good friend Cam from Gibsunday. So thank you for doing this, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm so interested in everything that you've been doing. Like I really am genuinely, I want to get into the nitty-gritty of how you ended up doing what you're doing right now for your career.
Yeah.
But I have to ask the question that I always ask everybody. What is your earliest musical memory?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Nah, I think like if I'm going from the just shooting from the hip here, not really having thought about that question. My sister and I grew up like singing, or we just grew up in church.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it was just always a thing. And so she was always singing. And so my earliest like musical memory was her performing. And she's only 4 years older than me. So it was, it was like she was 6 and I was 2.
Right.
But my whole family is pretty musical. At least everybody in the family sings. Like that's the minimum. But a musical family. So it was always more around than not. What a
Okay.
terrible answer. I wish I had like a really good one.
No, that's not a terrible
So
answer.
there I was watching Zeppelin perform
Yeah,
their Opus Day
in my mom's womb.
in 1969.
Yeah, dude. I don't think that's a bad answer. I think I'm really interested in that question because I think everybody has this crazy road that they walk to get where they are now, and
Yes,
music,
100%.
and music is not a thing that is. Not everybody I bump into in the grocery store is a musician. So it's like, how
Right.
do you get from point A to point B? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can dig into that one a little more because
Yeah.
the whole reason I play is because my sister sang. And so we're all 4 years apart. And so 4 years is just far enough to like each other but not enjoy each other. You know what I mean? Like you can't really enjoy your 12-year-old brother when you're 16. Like, hey, you want to come with us? We're going to go driving. It's not exactly cool.
Cam, here's a quick aside. My brother and sister were all 4 years apart too.
Nice.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah. It's so you fight a lot just because it's really hard to get on with each other because the age gap is so big. And then if you've got like the first and the third or 8 years apart, they don't have anything in common. I mean, they're lucky to share the same house. So having the older sister who sang wonderfully, I was a very, very, very shy child and picked up drums as like my competition to her singing and took to it really naturally and jumped into it. And unfortunately, because like at the time in which my dad was buying me gear and buying her gear, she would get the crappy stuff and I would get the good stuff. I'm like, I want a PA system for my band. Like I've got drums, they've got guitars and amps, but we need a PA system. So he buys me a nice PA system. Right. And my sister 4 years earlier was like, I want a PA system. And he buys her like a shitty karaoke machine. Like a it was amazing. And so she was bitter forever. So it was like, even in this really weird, passive aggressive, accidental parental way, we were also competitive with each other because dad's buying me the good stuff and not her. So like for me, music was my way of having my own identity beyond like my sister's shadow. Like it's a lifelong dream to sing at Carnegie Hall. Well, she sang there twice. So I got to play drums loud. Like I've really got to give it my all and be good at it if I want to compete. And, that's all you want to do as a kid is just compete with your siblings and win. Or at least my really it was.
Are you the middle or the youngest?
No, it's weirder. So there's my older sister, me, 2 younger brothers, and then a baby half sister. And that dynamic means there's not really a middle. Like kind of, but like number 2 should be, but I'm not because I'm the first boy. And then my brother Spencer technically is because he's the middle boy. So
median.
Yeah, he is. And he was absolutely the middle child growing up, like 100% lost his mind when the baby came along. Like just could not. Yeah.
Well, so does your sister, so she's still singing and still doing that thing or?
No, I mean, she still sings at church back home, like, well, where they live. So, they do that, which I wish she did more, but like you start having kids and life goes on and it gets hard to maintain some of those hobbies and interests. And if you
Yeah.
don't just like obsess over it, you don't really maintain it.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Like you've got kids, right?
Oh, yeah, I have one, yeah, but
Yeah. So
one's
you,
enough.
yeah. And so you have to really have gone into that first child with the obsession intact to maintain it. Cause you're like, well, now I got to figure out how to play guitar with a crying baby or a sleeping baby. How do I juggle this? And you're never going to ask that question if you're not obsessed.
Oh, yeah.
You're just
Oh,
going to
yeah.
stop playing and look up one day and been like, it's been 5 years since I played my crappy acoustic.
Yeah, and luckily that never happened,
Yeah.
but dude, yeah, it's a thing, dude, like, you have to find a way to make time, and, like, becoming a parent definitely made me realize how selfish I was with my time before her. Like, for real, like,
Yeah,
it really
I know.
really does,
Yeah.
and, thank God I have a wife who knows that my life would be nothing without music, so she's like, "You gotta make time to do what you need to do."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But, alright, so growing up singing in the church, okay, so when did, like, secular music, like, hit you, and, like, what were those early
Oh,
records that
yeah.
made you wanna learn more about the drums or whatever?
Yeah. I didn't have that secular thing. Like my parents didn't raise us that way, thankfully. Um, that happened later, but initially it was like, yeah, here's church music, but church music came second to the rest of music. My mom is incredible with music. Like her mental musical dictionary is just amazing. And my grandmothers were the same way. So they were both obsessed with it, but obsessed in like the cultural aspect of it too, like knowing why it was that Cat Stevens was Cat Stevens the way he was Cat Stevens. So like
Mhm.
they were into that. So it wasn't just like let's listen to the music and it'll be there, but they were really into it and like the history of it all. So it was really cool. But I really wish this wasn't my story. I wish it was way cooler. But my very first, I got my first and my second, record. I'm using air quotes because they were CDs. And my first and second record that were officially mine and mine only were in 1996. It was Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again, or Hit Me Baby, whichever one it is. I don't know now. And then TLC's Scrubs. So those,
Yes.
like it wasn't cool. It wasn't rock and roll or whatever. It was just what was on the radio. But I was obsessed with pop radio growing up. I wanted to know every song and understand them and obsess over them. And so those were the two that I, kind of got my hooks into and realized how beautiful it was to be able to collect and have music around. Um, but then for drums, it was kind of the opposite. Like I have this very, if I didn't have a good first musical memory, this would be it. But it was my cousin played guitar and they lived in this big house. And at the very top of the stairs was his room. And at the top, because he was a little show off 13-year-old, he would come out of his room with his flying V strapped on and would play the Star Spangled Banner. I was like, that's so fucking cool. By the way, can I cuss?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
All right, great. So I'm like, that's so fucking cool. I want to play drums like that so I can play with him one day. And I did, and I learned, and he and I ended up playing together. And we were, like he was 5 or 6 years older than me, so it made no sense. But seeing him perform rock and roll in that weird kind of way totally changed my trajectory. And I started listening to it and started playing along with it and joined like a band in middle school. And the guitarist had two obsessions, Kurt Cobain of Blink-182. And I didn't like Nirvana at the time. I didn't get it. I was too young for it. But Blink made sense as a teenager. It made perfect sense.
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
like they speak that language so well, so fluently. So we accidentally became a Blink-182 cover band. We didn't mean to, but when you're like, hey, we're 40 songs deep in the catalog, like by heart, like you're officially a cover band, like it or not kind of thing.
Right.
And so we started playing parties in middle school and high school for like birthdays and stuff. And
Mhm.
it changed everything. Was like playing along to Travis because I started playing drums to stuff like all of the butt rock of the early 2000s. Like I totally grew up playing Creed. I know like every single song on My Own Prison and Weathered. And it's not something I wear as a badge of honor now. But back then I was like, it was the proudest thing. I was like, I could play everything Scott Stapp can sing. Stained, like all of those bands of that era that were just like the heavier stuff. But not like metal. Anyways, Played all that stuff for a long time, then got into pop punk, pop rock, all that kind of like punk rock stuff. Loved that era. Got into the hardcore scene naturally because at some point every teenager takes a walk through the wild side and tries out like the metal era.
Oh
So
yeah, I
it's
did
easy to
too.
go, yeah, you got to find out like, can I really tolerate this, or do I actually like it, or what? And I went through probably 5 years of like the hardcore scene in some version, whether it was just like post-core, emo core, like
Right.
anything with core attached to it. I got played that at some point. So yeah, I never had that hard boundary of like, oh no, it's secular. I was
Right,
like,
right, right.
oh, this is good, and the stuff that we play on Sundays is kind of boring and easy.
Yeah,
Like that was
yeah.
my like the line in my mind.
I mean, yeah, I think that makes complete sense. I mean, you have to at that time too, like what was going on in the industry at that time. It was all like the rock and roll that was there for us to consume
Yeah,
was that stuff.
yeah, that was it.
Like, yeah, and there
That was
wasn't
popular stuff.
yeah, and I don't know I mean, I guess throughout history there will always be kids in middle school walking around with Nirvana and Led Zeppelin shirts on. Like
Yeah,
cuz it's just like there's like this pinnacle of like the trajectory of music changing and like there was just that recent like Rick Beato was just talking to Tim Pierce about this, and Tim Pierce was talking about how much Nirvana completely changed his life because at the time in LA, what was going on, like Steve Lukather or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mike Landau had the
Right.
lockdown on all those sessions.
Yeah.
But then, like, when like all the studios wanted the grunge thing or the rock thing, like Tim Pierce was like, I can do that. And
Yeah,
totally got into it, you know,
yeah,
and made his name.
yeah.
Um, you know, so it's interesting because all that music that you were talking about, it's a little past my like I grew up on Pearl Jam. Like Pearl Jam is my favorite band. Like that's
Cool.
why I play guitar.
Yeah,
But like it's a completely different time period of music too. Like when Blink enters, there's a shift. Like all those
music
bands like
changes again.
yeah, like Blink
Yeah,
and Sum 41 and all those like bands
yeah,
that were hitting MTV or whatever. It was just a
right.
little bit of a different scene. Like it's like that, like you were talking about, like the punk rock thing started coming back.
Yeah, I just heard someone talking about that, and it was about like how punk was perceived as a sellout around the late 90s to the early 2000s. And one of the commentators spoke up and really kind of summed up the entire moment so cleanly. And he said, there are times when you create things that become a sellout because you made something that was popular. But then there are really special instances where what you're making becomes popular.
Right.
Green Day made pop punk possible. Green Day didn't sell out. They made stuff until it became cool. And then suddenly they were seen as sellouts, but like they had been playing the same thing since 1989.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really, really get cool until the late 90s, early 2000s, where like the genre became a genre, because otherwise it was kind of scattered amongst, like little niches of like punk dwellings and rock
Mm-hmm.
dwellings. It didn't necessarily have like its own niche.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see how long it took for that evolution to take place, and then how long it took for it to take center stage, and then how long it took to get knocked out of center stage and take a second, So yeah, it is interesting how much whatever's present is really your thing. You were saying something a second ago that was funny too, like the pinnacle of music. I think that like music hit its pinnacle like by 1980. Like, or sorry, not music. I think rock and roll kind of starts with the Beatles. That's in my mind. That's where the timeline begins. And I'm not saying they're the originators of rock. Whoever wants to roast me for that can not. So yeah, in my mind, the timeline really kind of starts rock and roll with the Beatles, and then it dies off, like say today. And then by the time that Zeppelin is coming to an end, is about the time that rock and roll hits its pinnacle. And you're like, yeah, everything else is good, or there are some good things here and there, but we did it. We capped out when Zeppelin ended. When they said Coda, we should have gone rock and roll Coda. Like it should
Right.
have just been all of it. Because you said Pearl Jam's your favorite. Zeppelin was mine. Like
Mm-hmm.
Bonzo was why I hit drums as hard as I could. Like if that guy can get paid for it, I can hit him hard too without getting paid for it. It'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that was absolutely my impetus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's true, and I think the grunge scene is not, it's not rock and roll in the sense, even the Foo Fighters aren't rock and roll in the sense that Zeppelin was, because it's the same thing as the punk scene, man. I think if you listen to Fugazi and Minor Threat, and then you listen to the Ramones, and then you listen to Green Day is just, it's the evolution of the
Yeah,
punk
I
thing,
was gonna
getting
say
more
that.
sophisticated with melodies, and
Yeah.
putting that Beatles stamp on
Yeah,
punk,
yeah, yeah, right.
in a way.
Totally.
So it's like, it's not so dissimilar. It's still got that essence and that, vibe of the punk scene, but it's just a little bit more sophisticated.
Yeah, it
You know.
also it yeah, I like what you said there. Like it was melody driven punk, but it also like still very much represented the voice and the angst of the era, like to whom it was being consumed by, because there were always like two voices within the punk world, like it was anti something and angst. Right, like
Mhm.
those were the two main kind of ideologies that punk was really driving. Like, I'm not cool with this thing happening, and I wanna deal with it somehow. Like,
Mhm.
right? So that's anti whatever, whether it's anti-establishment or anti anything. It was anti that thing. And that was being driven by the second ideology of the angst it represented. Like, the people who performed punk rock were fucking angst about something. Like there was something in there they were trying to work through. And so by the time that you get to Green Day, they're doing the same thing. They're representing the angst of teenagers very, very well. Like it's stuff that it resonated, and it had that like the comedy to it as well of the teenage voice. It wasn't a sophisticated joke. It was like calling your record Dookie.
Right.
Like you named it a funny title after shit.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it represents a teenage mindset that did not offer any sophistication whatsoever. But that's what makes it so funny when you're a teenager is laughing about boners and dookie. Like
Mhm.
it's an easy place. And I say as teenagers, as if we both didn't just chuckle a little at that idea.
That's, dude. Yeah.
Dookie and boners, like you just can't help it.
No,
Um,
dude. I mean, the Growing Pains, there was a character named Boner. What were they thinking?
yeah, exactly. Well, what were they thinking? They asked the teenager, "Well, what's your nickname?"
Right.
Well,
It's
ironically, about an erection.
I like I mean, I like even like Kerplunk, like the way that they've kind of, and you can even see them mature and grow throughout their career. But I kind of jumped off the wagon after Dookie because I got into like jazz fusion, and I went in a whole different
Oh,
direction in my
that's
life.
a left turn. Damn.
Well, I have my older brother was huge into the Grateful Dead and Fish and stuff. So like I got exposed to all these jam bands, and that is what lit my fire. And that's kind of
Okay,
what I do as a
do
musician.
me a
Like you
favor then.
could.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Do me a favor then, and send me your favorite Grateful Dead song because I don't connect with the Grateful Dead, and I want to understand why others do.
Yeah.
So it's not me saying they're bad or whatever. I'm just saying I don't get it, and I'm open to it.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Oh,
send me your favorite one, and if it needs some context, like if I've got to listen to the record to get that thing, then send me that because
okay.
I'll go wherever you'll send me. But I just the bits that I've listened to, I was unimpressed. And I'll first say also the way I imagined them was not at all what I heard the first time. Like the first time I heard Jerry Garcia sing, I was like, I thought this was like hard. I thought this was like Zeppelin band. Like I thought it was rock and roll jam, and it was like kind of pretty and folky, and it didn't make
Yeah.
any sense of what. So again, send me your favorite, and I'll totally go there.
Okay. Okay. We can do that.
Yeah,
Um, but anyway, so it's just like people, back to the first question. I just like
yeah,
knowing how people kind of Robert Frost that fork in the road. Do you take the road less traveled, or
yeah,
it's just, there's just a really interesting dichotomy that we have as musicians, like that you have like this split personality, and which ways you can go in terms of, am I gonna become an artist? Am I gonna be a songwriter? There's always like these hats that you have to wear.
yeah.
And I love seeing how people get there. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about like, you know, here we are kind of in the throes and the depths of social media, and
Yeah.
how much of an influence this world has on people. And I find it so interesting what you started doing and then how that became a thing that you're doing now. But before we get there,
Yeah.
how the heck did you get to guitar from the drum set?
Yeah. So that is actually like one of my greatest regrets, unfortunately. But I regret it like passively, but not it's
Mm.
not something I'm like dealing with or working through. I was a really good drummer naturally. I'm not saying I was a good drummer. I just picked it up in a way that didn't make sense. That I just sat down and started playing, and then I was like, oh shit, I'm playing the drums, and got got good enough that it was like I'm starting to get attention, starting to get invitations and stuff. Um, catching people's eye and that kind of thing. And really, frankly, I just had too much ego to be at the back of the stage. And
Mm.
the rest of my family saying, and this is it took a long time to figure this out, but the rest of my family saying, and again having that competitive nature of like, if I'm a better drummer than you are vocalist, can I be a better vocalist than you are vocalist? And so like I had a very insecure and kind of competitive approach to most things. So, the thing that always happens at band practice is like you goof off, you not goof, you jam for however long, and then at some point you take a break, and then you just pick up instruments because they're around, right? It's not because I want to learn the riff. And I picked up my buddy's electric, and he taught me Sweet Home Alabama first, and then he taught me the intro to Crazy Train. And so I had these two like starting points. I'm like, okay. And so then my dad bought me a little like PV kit. And my first guitar is right over here, and I still hold on to it. It's terrible. It was like a PV Strat knockoff. And just started playing it more and more. And the church that I was going to was like, yo, we need guitarists. And I'm like, well, that's great because I suck and I want to get better. And one very quick way to get better is start playing in front of people and
Yeah.
playing with other people. And so when they, like they asked, I jumped on stage, was like, yo, let's do it. So kind of quickly grew into guitar and played acoustic for a long time. But at that point, I was a singer songwriter, and that was the thing I was most interested in, was singing, writing songs, and playing and performing. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about the business. I just really wanted to sing and play guitar and get girls. That was it. That was it. Just wanted girls to look at me and play guitar. It usually led to girls. So that was just the whole thing, was like, I'm going to play and do that. And then went to, there's a Bible college in Australia, and I went to that for music to learn and grow chops and stuff. And that was when I kind of transitioned from acoustic to electric, because at that point I've been playing acoustic for 10 years or whatever, and was bored, and discovered guitar pedals through transitioning over to electric. And it really blew my mind, just like how much you could do with guitar pedals and how much you could create. With guitar pedals, there's the incredible like aspect of, I can play anything I want by myself. I can create percussive sounds and weird sounds and drones for back. I can do all kinds of stuff and basically have a little mini band on my own. I don't need anyone else if I have the right pedals and I know what I'm doing. The problem with that is that you stop playing with people because
Yeah.
you develop your own genre of playing alone. And so I started playing alone basically, and like almost only, because I was experimenting with so many different pedals and things. And so that was just, it was kind of a natural, like I wanted to play it, and then started picking up piano, and this same thing, like understood how it all kind of transitioned, just needed to build chops, and then bass. And I had the same arrogance that all guitarists have. Well, if I can play guitar, I can play bass, as if it's the same instrument, though it's clearly not.
Right.
Um, so there was it was a natural progression. Like I had a short attention span and an insecure ego, and so that was the perfect storm for just learning everything that was in front of me, whether it
Mhm.
was like competitive or affirmation or whatever. I just wanted to play. Now, I've also said all of this really negative stuff. Like I'm kind of self-deprecating right now. Music was 1000% the only language I spoke. Like it was
Mhm.
the only thing that I could sit and do. And up until I was probably 16, I didn't like talking to people. I didn't want to, I was an introvert. I was terrified of literally everything. And music was the one thing I could just go like be alone somewhere in a space and go somewhere else mentally, like go to that place that I needed to find.
Mhm.
And then music was also the place that would bond me to people like in a relatively safe relationship as well, right? I mean, I'm going into a room and I'm just going to play music with more music in it if there are people there too. And
Mhm.
that suddenly was unbelievable because playing alone's fun. Like you're always getting to do something, create and all that. But when you get into a room where you could sit and jam with 3 or 4 other people, like that's where you really start to experience the magic of it. I remember reading this article about how there's this belief, a well-documented, well-studied belief that musicians are essentially telekinetic, like
Mhm.
like very, very small kind of telekinesis, like we're tapping into something through
Mhm.
this energy when right because there we all have to go to the same place and play in unison. And well-seasoned musicians who've been playing together, especially even before, and I'm not just saying like playing along with the click. There's a huge difference in playing to a click and playing in a band.
Totally.
We can all play the same song simultaneously accidentally, right? Like, oh look, Joe's here. Didn't know he was playing with me. Like that's an easy thing to do. Like play a song that doesn't sound cohesive. And then there are those moments that like you fall into it and you feel like your soul is riding that wave too. It's not just like I'm playing it, but like we're all here. And that's that
Mhm.
telekinesis, that thing that I'm talking about. And it was really cool to see how that was documented and put data to the experience that I had as a musician was, okay, this is not just me. This is something way bigger that like my soul sings a song and I can sing it with others if we'll allow each other to. And
Mhm.
I didn't have that with other things. I didn't feel that like I'm like I don't care about sports. I run track, so I don't even have like a traditional sport to like talk to. Like, you want to talk about how fast you run the 100 meter? It's not like we can really talk about it like football or whatever.
Right.
So I didn't have the other stuff that other kids had, but I did have music. And because musicians are less common than not, when you meet homies that you can make music and play with and create with and go to that space with, it's like the most magical thing in the universe,
Totally.
because it's the language that the 3, 4, 5 of you only speak, and really only in that moment too, right? Like it's really, really special. I want to go play right
I know, right?
now.
It's that's the thing, dude, and I've said this a million times on this channel, but it's like I don't wanna totally say it's a parallel to this, but it feels like akin to being in a foxhole in a war with people. When you get on stage,
Yeah.
there is a even if you've never played, if somebody comes and they're sitting in and they're a hired gun and they're a friend of a friend who's subbing for your bass player,
Sure.
and he shows up and crushes it, and, like, you have this connection, immediately right then, that person is your friend.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's, like, this connection, and that's what I love about the Grateful Dead and about all those great jam bands is, like,
Yeah.
they're
Totally.
that telekinesis, that knowing where someone's going. I posted all these videos where the audio is clipping from my band playing this weekend
Yeah.
because the show was freaking fire, like
Yeah.
and you know how you can have those out of body moments, like you'll play something and in the moment I'm not realizing what's going on. I'm just doing what my ear and my heart are telling me to do.
Yeah.
And then when I go back and listen to it, I'm like, damn, that was hip. I don't even know what I did.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's like you're just outside of yourself in a way.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
really weird. Like music is
Yeah.
totally transcendent like that. I
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah. I've got a buddy I'm playing with right now, and he'll tell me like, "Yeah, you were gone."
Yeah.
And I'm just,
Yeah.
and I'm just over in the back, just
Yeah.
one. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm trying to go there. Like that's what I want. I want to find the gap between like here and now. I want to find that little space and figure out how to move in there and play music there. That's where I'm trying to get. I'm not just trying to make it louder or faster. Like I don't care about playing the drums. I care about playing the music in that moment that takes us all to that place. Like that, it's just the greatest thing when you kind of come to and you're still going.
Mhm.
Oh shit, I did it. I went there. Like I love that space so
It's
much.
it's dangerous and it's fun. It's like
Yeah.
standing on the edge of a cliff every time. You know? It
Yeah.
is, but
Yeah.
it's like we go there on purpose
Yeah.
without a parachute,
Yeah.
it's like
Absolutely.
we do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Except
so
way less badass than an actual parachute.
right.
No, it's actually with a seatbelt and helmet on and
And a jet engine sometimes. Um, so tell me, so how did Gibsunday start? Like where did that come from? Like, were you just like because I look at I look at guitars like art, just like people that love cars look at cars like art
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
So was it kind of like that? Like you just like, this is a beautiful piece of art, functional art kind of thing?
No, it was everything kind of fell into place. The way that it all happened, it was just a combination of like I mean, it was kismet in the grandest sense of like I was the right personality looking for the right thing at the right time and an opportunity presented itself. I was living in Seattle and I was trying to open a business or buy a business where I was like renting pedals online. And so I'm working at Guitar Center in the day and I'm thinking about like how this business is structured and what I want to do with my life. And so I'm heavy into social media at this point because it's the early days of Instagram. And so like I can feel that like this is new, but there's something because we're a couple years in and it's growing and stuff is starting to be defined in the world by social media. Like we're at
Mhm.
that point. It used to be you couldn't be anything on Instagram. There were old jokes like, "Oh, you were a model on Instagram." Ooh. And now you can be a model on Instagram and literally do nothing else. Like
Right.
it's totally a thing. And I was seeing that come to fruition, and I thought, there's got to be a niche in here somewhere for me to do a thing, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what I want, but when I find it, I'll know. So I'm working, like I said, this is 2014, and I'm working at Guitar Center, and in the fall of 2014, Gibson released its line of Robo tuners, and man, I could sell anything in a guitar shop because I was passionate about all of it. I wanted to talk to you about why Babinga Wood was the right choice in drums. I wanted to tell you why the TS9 was better than the TS808. Like I understood how to articulate those things in communicable ways that would sell gear. I got it. And I played enough of it too that I could. The one thing I could not sell was the 2014 line of Gibsons.
Mhm.
Holy shit, man.
I know.
I figured it out. You know how you sell a 2014 Gibson? You
No.
basically strip it down and start over.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
kidding.
No,
But
I get it.
about a
Yeah.
month in, I was like, yo, can I take the Robo tuner off and put on original tuners? And can I get rid of the zero brass nut radius? And can I get rid of the chipboard? Like, what are the mods that I can make to this guitar to make it playable in a way that's familiar? And that was when I had my first big revelation that guitarists will tell you all day long they want innovation, but they don't want change.
Right.
And they don't know the wording a lot of times. They'll just say, I want something new. But what they're talking about is like an update on your computer. Just update the driver. Don't change the system. I don't want to have to figure out the layout, right?
Mhm.
I just want it to run faster. I want it to run smoother, better, whatever. And that was where I realized that because Gibson had made this huge stride in technology and advancing the guitar. You don't have to even tune it anymore. The
Right.
easiest thing that you can do on this damn thing, you no longer have to do.
Right.
So like they were really trying, and I respect that. I'm not just saying that because I'm a company man now, but I really like could see there was this huge divide between what people said and what people got from Gibson, at least
Mhm.
in their minds. Like they just weren't happy with it. So, and I felt the same way. I mean, I'd sit there and strum it and try and tune it and fight with it, fight with it, fight with it. And I hated all of it. So when that happened, I was thinking too, because at the time, Guitar Center was also fighting off just droves of bankruptcy rumors. And so that thing was in my mind constantly, listening to people come in and ask me, so when's the Guitar Center going under? Like, man, fuck off. So I heard that word a lot at the time. And I thought to myself one day, I wonder if this is going to kill Gibson. I wonder if
Mm.
this shitty version of the guitar that had a really great intention behind it will be the Gibson killer. Like, is this it? And Lance Seymour had started Gear Talk at this point, and it was the source by which we were now like speaking the same language from in social media and gear. Like that was like the first big gear thing for me was Gear Talk.
Right.
Like everybody kind of went to Gear Talk as the source back then. And so I was thinking about it, was like, well, we've got these like themes and things that we do, like Saturday, Gear Talk, Jazzmaster Monday, Fender Friday, and there was no Gibbs Sunday that was used.
Mhm.
And I certainly didn't come from the discipline of like, I've got to create it. I just felt like I've got to use it. And if someone comes
Yeah.
along and says you can't use Gibsunday, then I'll pivot and use something else. Like I'll figure it out. So the combination of it all was perfect. Like, yo, I like Gibson. I didn't until I got a job at Guitar Center and was exposed to all of the Gibsons and could play them more. And suddenly I'm finding like I'm buying a Gibson here, I'm buying a Gibson there. Like my affinity for Gibson was really growing. And then I was bummed to think that this incredible legacy was going to disappear because of a shit made guitar.
Right.
Not even a shit made guitar, like a shit concept, I guess. I'm thinking through that as I say it out loud. It just didn't work. It was the wrong time in the wrong place is really what it came down to, right? Like no matter how well it was done. And I was like, yo, if it goes under, there's something that I can do in Gibsunday if it does. I'll grow this account by creating it if it goes under. If it goes under, it'll grow by itself. There
Right.
needs to be a place where the aficionados, the connoisseurs, and the lovers of Gibson in the world can go to. And I want to create that thing. And I'm not starting a forum. I'm not starting a website. We've got enough of those. They exist. If someone's looking for a place to go, they'll come to me and we'll be that. And that'll be Gibsunday. Like we'll have one day a week where we'll just talk about Gibsons on Sunday. I won't post pictures of people playing. There won't be faces. If there's a celebrity, it'll be like worthwhile. It'll be very, very intentional. It'll be about our love of the weird ass, Les Paul Corvette, the Corvus, the Modern, the Les Paul's favorite Les Paul, the Recording. I mean, what a terrible name. Recording? Not even the Recorder.
Right.
Come on, man. Present tense. You're hurting me here. And so there were just all of these weird guitars and this incredible lineage and this 60s. I just saw something recently. It was like there were more guitarists playing Les Paul, more guitars playing Gibsons in the 50s, 60s, and 70s than there were any other guitar. And so you go back through and you just look and you go, yeah, I see everybody with a Les Paul, a Flying V, a 335, or an SG, like everybody, And it was really crazy to see that and kind of put that together. Like this is this company. And so it grew very, very quickly. So I started it. It grew. Gibson came out with a 2015 lineup and nixed most of that terrible stuff. And I think like in the first 6 months, I had 10,000 followers. It was really, really fast. Like
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I wasn't doing anything special. It was Sundays only. And I didn't have a formula. I didn't know anything to work off of. And there was so little out there as far as like resource for social. So it was, you're developing resource by doing it present tense in 2013, 2014. Like there's no Hootsuite. There's no blogs being written about it. Like it's just, I remember one time on Facebook, I would write a caption and people would respond to it. And I'd take the same caption and I would break it with a line. So I do like clever sentence, break, clever sentence. And so it would read as a 2-part joke. And that same joke that I posted a week earlier wouldn't get any traction. And the same one I'd post a week later would like have, 400 likes. And so you don't know that stuff then because no one had a book on it and how to, you couldn't podcast it and learn it. And shit, there weren't even podcasts back then. So, it was just such a different world. So I was really just in this, like in the throes of it, figuring out as I went. And that was like the thing that brought it to fruition. Like that whole story I just told you. But the actual driving factor for what made me say I want to start Gibsunday and I want to grow in social media was way smaller minded and way more selfish. I just wanted free guitar gear. That was it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm spending a fortune. I work at Guitar Center. I make no money. I want to get more of it. I can't seem to figure out how to make more money right now without like changing careers. But at that point at GC, we had a really incredible discount. It's like you bought stuff for cost.
Right.
So it wasn't worth I knew a guy who made 6 figures who worked Saturdays at Guitar Center for the deal. That was it. And so like you just suck it up and go, I don't care. I just got a Strat for $500 instead of $1,200. Like I'm going to work here till I die.
Right.
And for me, I was like, that's just not good enough. I don't want it for $500. I want it because I made cool shit and they sent me more of them.
Yeah.
And that was really, it was like, I wanted to make stuff and people will be influenced by it and companies want to give me things. Like that was really what it came down to, was I wanted to find ways to justify having the gear.
Yeah.
Just
That's fair.
want
I
free
think
shit.
I respect the hell out of you for just owning that too, you know, like it's that's seriously though, it's a fair thing. I mean, as a young musician, like you always dream about like getting
Yeah,
endorsements and like
yeah,
so I mean, I for a long time, like the
yeah.
first time I got a free pedal in the mail 2 years
Yo.
ago, I was like, I made it,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Do you
So
feel like you have a good, and I'm asking this legitimately because it's something I'm still wrestling with. Do you feel like you have a good understanding of what an endorsement is today in 23? Do you feel like you know that?
I mean, it's probably not. I mean,
Yeah,
I've had several endorsements with PRS, with Sir
yeah.
Guitars. Sir dropped all their low level guys like me. I don't know when that happened. I had 3 Sirs out of that, which was nice,
Nice.
which I
Congrats.
sold all of them and got 1 guitar that's really nice.
You're Josh Williams?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And but yeah, so it's different, I think now because I think
Yeah.
there's different expectations. When I was coming up and growing up, I was thinking about endorsements being like, okay, I'm gonna be a road dog. I'm gonna, you know, I love my strats. I'm like, I'm gonna get strats and I'm gonna have a custom shop one day and
Yeah.
blah blah blah, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm gonna be a touring musician. But now it's different.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it's the influencer
Yeah.
thing. That's the endorsement world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
strange.
Endorsements are tough because I came like in the 80s, it was like everybody wanted to be endorsed by like a BMX bike company, right? Like, and so you rode only for that BMX bike. Like, and
Right.
you had the sponsor, you had the number, you had the whole get up. And I think, and then in the 70s and 80s, we also had endorsements with record companies or with manufacturers like Gibson and Fender. And so you would see Eddie Van Halen only playing Kramer or only playing the EVH because of his endorsement or whatever, right? And that was, I think, what has made it such an odd world to live in now, because when there was no social to use as the avenue to jump off into an endorsement deal, like endorsements were so elusive and so far-fetched and had really had grown a lot, but we just couldn't, we as like, civilians couldn't find access to them without becoming famous.
Mhm.
And now the world has shifted in such a way that, depending on whatever your sphere of influences when it comes to social can totally dictate what those terms are, because you can be a nobody who makes incredible content with 0 followers and you get a guitar because you're a creator,
Right.
or you can be an influencer with a massive following who doesn't do shit and you get paid to do nothing else, right? Like, so
Mhm.
and then that's not an endorsement necessarily. Like, they might send it to you because it's part of your contract, but that's not an endorsement. Like, it's just, so it's such a weird word that I'm often curious to hear how other people define that relationship.
Yeah, I definitely don't define it like I used to, and I don't maybe the endorsement thing doesn't exist anymore
I don't think
because
it does.
I think, when I got this is a really quick aside, but, like, I'm the kinda guy that never tell me I can't do something because I will
Yeah,
go
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll go do it. And I was working with this promoter who was kind of managing my band back when I was in my late 20s. And I kept saying, like, hey, I'm a Maryland boy. Can you talk to PRS? Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. He's like, oh, I can't make that happen. Blah, 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 this and that.
What a
And
shitty.
then yeah, and then I
You
dumped
should
that.
not be convincing your agent to be a go-getter. It
No.
should have been the
So
other way around, right?
he got fired.
Yeah,
So, and then guess what I did? I reached out to them the following week and hooked up
yeah,
with them and got an endorsement.
yeah,
Now the endorsement at that time and still is I don't get free guitars, but I get a great discount, an
yeah,
artist discount.
yeah,
We've talked about stuff like that, but like,
yeah.
I'm not. I've never. The day I get a guitar in the mail for free, that is when I'll be like, I made it.
Okay,
Like,
let me show you. I'll show you mine because this is I just got my first one and it was a
oh heck yeah!
and I think I played it. But give me one second.
I was gonna ask you if you had any toys you could show off.
This is the only one that I've like gotten as like a trade, and it was a really big deal. Um,
Oh yeah,
it's
man.
an LP custom. It's a 2022. I mean, it plays amazing. It's got demo on the headstock, so like I'm aware of where it came from, but it's a custom shop and everything. And I've never owned a custom shop, so I didn't see me getting into one. I love the other stuff, and I was like, yeah, one day I'll own a custom shop Les Paul because I should. But it
Right.
wasn't me thinking to myself, like, that'll be the guitar I go after. Like, I was like, I'll get an SG, I'll get a 335 or something, but like, I'm not
Right.
going after a custom. And then I got it and was like, I don't know anything. This is amazing.
That
This thing,
thing's beautiful.
yeah, thank you. It plays like absolute butter, just straight out of the case. It plays good. It feels good. It's not heavy. This is the first guitar I've had in a long time where I thought, I don't really want to mod it. I'm actually happy with the pickups. I'm happy with the
Nice.
wiring. I haven't felt that way in a long time. Like
Wow.
everything I get, I want to mod and change and try and customize and make it mine. And
Mhm.
I'll do it to death. And this one, I'm good.
That
So
guitar,
that's
you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of Neil Young's guitar that he
yeah, yeah, yeah.
played on the VMAs without the Bigsby, but like it
I would
reminds me of that.
I would totally add a Bigsby to this, 100%.
Really? Nice.
Absolutely.
I can't stand Bigsby's.
No way.
Well, here's why. I hate stringing them. I hate changes. I know there's tools that help you.
Let me show you another one to help you.
Okay.
All right, so I felt the same way, but I didn't care enough to not play a Bigsby.
Mhm.
I liked the Bigsby more than I hated changing the strings. Changing the strings is a nightmare, but it just didn't bother me enough. So if you look here,
Mhm.
all right, let's get it right there. Oh, okay. See this?
Yeah.
That's called a string swing spoiler.
Okay.
And so it goes under the tension bar, and then typically it would go over this bar here underneath and
Mhm.
wrap around. Instead, you put the spoiler on the end and it goes under the tension bar and then it grabs here.
Oh, that's so much better.
Look at it. I mean, you could see it running straight up. There's the bottom.
Yeah.
It goes whoop right at the top.
Oh, yeah. See
This
that
takes
so
30
much better.
seconds. 30 seconds. It's like $30. And now
Oh,
you got a Bigsby.
okay. Okay.
That's it. That's it. Like is
That
the
I can get behind.
yeah, because it's made no impact on like the down tension. It's made no impact. It hasn't affected the tuning or made it worse or anything. It's just as good as it was before.
Okay. I
So,
mean, I
dude,
don't find myself using the bar too. Like I feel like, every Strat that I have it blocked because
yeah, yeah, that,
I
yeah,
don't use an arm. I mean, I want like a hardtail type vibe.
yeah. And
So
that's the only one that I have that's no, that's never mind.
yeah, that's a gorgeous guitar too, man.
Thank you. That can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one was that was funny. I was like, "Hey, local guitar shop, if you ever get an 88 335, call me and don't bullshit around, call me." And they knew like I was serious. I wanted a Berthier 335 really badly. And one day I was on their website and I didn't check it every day. It wasn't like I was, stalking it, but I was checking. And one day it pops up on their website and I was like, "You motherfuckers. I told you to call me." And it popped up and then, I bought it that day. And it's absolutely amazing. And that was a weird, and we could talk about this one all day. Your thoughts on modding vintage guitars. So there's a lot of like, what's vintage, what's not. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I was born in 88. So it's really odd to hear someone talk about 80s guitars being vintage. And I just heard
Mm-hmm.
someone say 90s is vintage now.
Mm.
And so when I got the 88, I was like, this isn't vintage. If it was 79, 80, okay, vintage. Okay. All right. Different decade. But like 80s, just we're not there yet. And so
Right.
I immediately, I've got all the original gear for it, but like I've changed the pickups on it like 4 times and the wiring on it 3 times. I've modded the hell out of it because it's mine.
Yeah.
Never
And you
get-
want to play it and you want to be happy playing it.
Yeah, I'm never getting rid of it. So what does it matter? Like
No.
if it has 0 street value, it's still my guitar. I don't care,
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't care if I mod it.
No, and I think didn't like JD Simo talk about that too? Like at one point he was like because he has all those like early 60s 335s and stuff and he's modded them and because he's
Yeah,
like, dude, I want to play them. They're meant to
yeah,
be played.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I also have, well, I mean, I have a proper vintage. I have a 67 330 and it's
Mm,
gorgeous. It's absolutely amazing. I love that guitar. Never gonna mod it.
yeah.
For some reason, I still play the 330 constantly. I played it at band practice 2 nights ago. Like it's great, but that one I just feel too safe about. Like that one's just,
Yeah.
So like it's funny how you draw lines in the sand. Like if I had several 60s you know, if I had several guitars from the 60s that I had several iterations of it, I think I'd be more likely to make some adjustments on things. But because of where I'm at in my guitar collection, I can't really justify
I
modding
mean,
a 50-year-old guitar.
I don't necessarily feel like anybody should be modding a burst, like an actual
Yeah,
burst.
yeah, like a 50. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But,
So
you
that
know, I don't know, like
you know what? Mod it and
it's
just don't
hard.
tell me about it.
Right. You know, and like who's gonna swap out a nice set of PAFs, dude, that sound good?
Yeah,
You don't want to because they sound friggin' great,
right. And if you
you
do
know, like
swap them out, you're just gonna swap them for other PAFs.
right.
You know, like that's where you're going anyways.
And there's so many great, you know, people that are making awesome, like really, like super duper close PAF replicas. Like my buddy that owns Rewind Electric. Do you know about that company?
No.
He makes some of the best sounding pickups. I can't say who he's been building pickups for. Where I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
But he's going to be on the show when he can talk about it, and we're going to nerd out. That's
Rad.
all I'll say. It's in my wheelhouse. That's all I'll say. But you know, I can see like if somebody wants to refret. I mean, if a burst is beat to shit and there's no frets anymore, you gotta refret it, man. Don't you want
Yeah.
to play it?
I haven't refretted that one yet because it doesn't need to. But when the time comes, I'm going to.
Right.
You like I might not mod it against what I just said about my 88, but I'm going to, you know, mod or update the frets on the 330 eventually. And I don't care about that. Like that's not important to me. It's like
No.
saying like here's the 57 Corvette with the original tires. Great, I can't drive it now.
The tires are
Like
bald, son.
yeah, right. The tires don't exist, you know. Like
Yeah.
that's why you drive it around on a trailer, you know. Like I don't want a guitar that sits on a rack that can't be played when it's playable. You know,
Yeah.
it's not busted. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't, you know. But one day I'll upgrade the frets and that'll be that.
And it'll play like butter and you'll play it more.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was intended.
Yeah. So really quick because we're running out of time. So what happened? How did the synergy happen that you ended up working with Gibson? Because that's
Yeah.
what I find super interesting.
Yeah, that one's way, way, way less sexy than you would think.
Yeah, it's
um,
okay. I'm still interested.
yeah. That wasn't one of those like moments where, you know, like random house publishing knocks on your front door with a big check. It was not that as much as I
Right.
wish it was. No, it was a lot simpler. Like I never knew if I was on Gibson's radar or not. And frankly, with the previous management, I was always afraid to be because they were
Mm,
very litigious and that's where all the horror stories come from. So I was terrified of like just fucking up and posting something or saying something or whatever. So I was always really careful about monetizing and how that looked and what deals were and so on. And so unfortunately, even though it was a Gibson dedicated fan page, like it totally like diminished some of the things that I would do because of my fear of the previous regime, which is such a bummer. But anyways, the new team comes in, takes over, and the old team is out. And it was right around Easter of like 2019, maybe 2018. And I saw that Cesar, who is the brand president at Gibson, was in Seattle. And kind of like you know, reaching out to PRS, I did the same thing. And I've never had a great I don't know if it's a bad gauge or if I don't care or if I just am really that like determined. I don't know which one it is of the three, but I just thought, well, he likes guitars. He works at Gibson. I run Gibsunday. I've posted his photos. He knows about me. He's here. I'm just like, hey, you want to get a beer? I just
right.
did. I was like, fuck it. I don't, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
You have
so
nothing to lose.
yeah, except for the account, but
Well, well, I mean, but you know, it seems like that
but
that dude's not
technically,
gonna.
I had nothing to lose relationally. So it was one of those like, you know what, just go for it. I don't, and if I do lose it, I'm going to lose it trying to do cool shit, not sitting around waiting for someone to take it from me. So I just DM'd him and was like, yo, what's up? Want to get a beer? And he's like, yeah, come down to the showroom. I didn't even know there was a showroom in Seattle, but basically it was a hidden showroom that was there to aid in, you know, guitars for traveling musicians going through, coming from, whatever. Like we had a source there, have someone who runs that showroom and everything. And I was like, a Seattle showroom? Is this thing hidden? You know, so I was there an hour later. I jumped in the car and went straight down. And we sat down and we talked for a little bit, and it was like, cool. Well, we like what you're doing. You want to work together? And, I'm sitting there, this like big boy table, not ready for this conversation, really excited to have it, but not prepared, I was like,
Right.
fuck yeah, I want to work with you guys. I've been doing this for years. Yes. What took so long? And they were like, all right, cool. And they, we made it happen. And so from that point, that was like the most glamorous of the Gibsunday Gibson relationship, because I would just ring up my like artist rep and be like, hey, can I borrow this? Or hey, can I try that? Or hey, can I come make this thing? And she just said yes, because it was always content for Gibson. So they liked it. And they
Right.
just didn't say no to stuff. So I had this like awesome relationship where like, I'm gonna make you guys stuff. Can I have some of it? And like, sure. So it was so much fun and so amazing. And I got to make a ton of really cool stuff with them. And
So you
then
were still in Seattle at
while
that point.
while maintaining my day job, working with my family, um, I just got on Gibson.com one day, like the careers, like /careers or whatever, and saw that there was a role open for like the director of social. And I was just like, I could do that. And I've got that thing in me that I don't know if it's good or bad, but like, yeah, I can do that without enough
Mhm.
forethought to really consider whether or not I can do it. But I'm also gonna jump in and figure it out. I'm not gonna jump in and go, nope, no, can't, never mind. Like, I'm not getting back out of the pool. I'm just gonna learn to swim. And
Right.
so I asked my artist rep, like, yo, do you think this would be a good idea? Like, let me first bounce it off somebody before I just apply, kind of, blanket response. Anyway, so I apply. I asked her. She says, "Yeah, I think it's a good idea. You should go for it." And she's not that kind of person to get like excited. So for her to give me this like real nice positive response, I was like, "Oh shit, yeah!" So started the conversation. And this is, like, again, I'm still living in that land of a bit of fear, because I don't know anybody really, and I don't know how they really operate on a day to day. And so then it was like, all right, well, let's set up some interviews. And I started interviewing with who would become my boss. And basically, they had just given the role away. And I was like, why are
Mm.
we on the phone for you to reject me? You couldn't have just ghosted me. I mean, it's 2020. Like, just ghost me like the rest of the world. They, like, I don't want to get rejected in my face like it's 1957. I just want to forever wonder what it could have been.
Right.
Like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not rejecting you. We want to find you a role. And I
Okay.
was like, well, you gave it away. So like, how big can the social team be? Or what are you willing to do or whatever? And anyways, I wasn't actually bitter. I was just bummed because I wanted that and the paycheck and acumen and everything else. Right. But anyways, they gave me my choice. And I'm saying this not for any other reason than to make the point that I used to operate in this extreme sense of fear about what Big Brother Gibson would do. And then
Mhm.
as I'm going through the process, like, holy shit, these are really cool people. These are really nice people, in fact. And so my boss and the person who got the role ended up becoming my boss. And they became like my cheerleaders is the wrong word, but like life coaches, because they were so behind me. They're like, you fucking worked on this, you built this thing, you did this stuff. And I'm over like trying to accept their compliments and their affirmation, but I'm also dying on the inside because I'm like, I can't accept this from you, because
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it, that like these people in Gibson, the leaders of Gibson would believe in me. I couldn't connect those dots when I was having been afraid of them for so long. So they basically laid out a few positions in front of me, and they're like, which one? I'm like, what? And I
Mm.
mean, I literally got the pick of the litter, which was just amazing.
That's
And so
awesome.
now, yeah, it was amazing. So now I'm the community manager of social media at Gibson, for the global brand. So that's a couple different things, but like the highest, easiest way to understand that is I oversee the digital community of Gibson.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's gotta be a dream job for you, man.
it's great because it's like I'm getting paid to do something I was doing, right? Like I'm getting paid to just live there. And
Yeah.
then the thing that's developed out of it that's really cool has been getting to work with people like you, where like, hey, Cam, you're already a digital creator. This is what you do. Why don't you like grow this thing that we're working on? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to. Like, fuck, I'd love to do that more than anything. Like, I'll get to make stuff with guys that make stuff, like folks that, like, that's, of course, that's what I want to do. And that was when, like, the reality of this incredible thing became a fantasy. It was like, this is too good
Yeah.
to be today. I can't imagine this actually happening in any other scenario.
Well, I feel like it's well earned, man. You're a lovely human being, and
Thank you.
you know, it's just there's a bit of like you've got one. As far as we know, we've got one life on this planet, right?
So
Like,
far. Yeah.
go hard and go
Yeah.
after the things you love, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's too short. It's way too short. And I say that as an old fart, like, get off my lawn.
Yeah.
And I'm not that old, man. I'm
At least
43.
at least you're wearing clothes when you said it, you know, like you weren't just in your skivvies all pissed about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? I like I genuinely feel that way. And it's like funny because like when you hit 40,
Yeah, sure.
it starts to really hit you where you're just like, I don't give a shit what people think about me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing what I love to do, you know, be damned, and like loving the people around me as hard as I can, and doing what I can to enjoy my life and enjoy music. So it's like you have to, like, if you get into a spot like you are, man, you jump on that coaster and you like put it into like ludicrous speed. You know, it's like that's what you got to do. So,
you know, I've made a couple of absolutely insane, huge decisions that were, for all accounts, just blind decisions, and they were the best ones I've ever made in my life. When I said I went to school in Australia, part of the story is I had never been on a plane when I was 21 and flew to Australia. I got drunk at a party. I met a girl. I was trying to hook up with her, and she was like, my boyfriend's in college in Australia. And I was like, what does that mean? And I left the party to go apply to this college, because if I can go to Sydney and go to music school, I'm going. Like, I'm not going to live in Savannah, Georgia, where I was raised, for the rest of my life. I want to go do something cool. And I just found out there's a school out there that brings in musicians from all over the world. So I applied that night, and I got in like 6 weeks later, and then went, and I met my wife there. She's an American, had the same story, wanted to go. And now we live here. Like, I moved to Seattle sight unseen, had never been there. It was 10 years later, like some of the best 10 years of my life.
I love that city. I freaking love that city.
Seattle is absolutely
super dope.
Real. People who like, what's so great about it? Like, you just got to go to find out. It's really amazing. Yeah, like, we moved here to Nashville, and if it weren't for like Gibson bringing me out here for a work trip, I would have never been here, because I never spent time here. I'd been here, through here, and all that kind of stuff, but never spent time. And they're just like, yo, life just isn't good enough to sit around and wait for something to show up. And I'm not one to think like life is bad, like intrinsically or anything like that. I'm not coming from that position. I just don't think it's worth sitting around, and I'd rather make big mistakes trying it. My dad always told us this growing up. You know, Babe Ruth didn't just hold the home run record. You know, he also held the strikeout record. And so, you know what Babe Ruth would say? You either hit him big or you miss him big. And that's what we did, was like, yo, fucking swing for the fence every single time you get a chance at bat, every time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you get to bat, what do you want to do? Be honest. Come on, Mark. You want to hit a homer today?
I want to hit a grand slam. I don't want to hit a homer.
Yes.
I want the bases to be full.
Yes. Yeah. I want the bases full. I want the stadium full. I want to. Well, all right. Here's a question. I know that we're over time, and I apologize to your audience.
That's okay.
I want a real answer to this. All right.
Okay.
What would be your walk-up song in baseball?
Come
on, give me a cool one.
That's a really, really good question. I mean, the cliche answer would probably be like, it would be a Pearl Jam tune.
All right, but which one?
Probably Brain of Jay. It's a heavy tune.
So you don't want
it's heavy.
You don't want to just hit a home run. You want a fucking grand slam with a full stadium, and as you round third, you're listening to what by Pearl Jam?
Brain of Jay.
You're running into home, base to Brain of Jay, like, I fucking did it. That's what I want my entire life to be like. I always want the grand slam. I always want the big moment, and not just because not just because I want them, but because I know like how good they are when you get them. You know,
Yeah.
like I know how hard they can be when you miss them, and I've felt that pain too. But like, man, when you get that grand slam, there's nothing sweeter. So go get
No.
it.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen, dude.
just go get
I
it.
I tell my
That's
daughter
what,
that all the time, man. She plays basketball and she's into it, but she's like, she's a kid, so she's not putting in the work right now to work on her ball
yeah,
handling skills and all that. But I tell her all the time, like, I was a point guard my whole life in high
yeah,
school and everything, and I'm like, I wanted the ball. I wanted the ball because I either wanted to put that ball in that hoop or I wanted to give it
yeah.
somebody that was going to do it.
Who would?
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I feel.
and I was just like, you gotta be hungry like the wolf. You gotta be hungry and want that ball. You
Yeah,
gotta you gotta be aggressive and want it. To a fault. Sometimes some people are like that, but like smart about it too.
yeah. I feel that.
So I live my
In,
life that way as well. But
in
yeah,
case you're curious, my walk-up song would be
I was gonna ask you.
Beast of Burden" by the Stones.
Nice, that's a good one.
I want something kind of cool and kind of sexy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
How do you get sexier than the Stones?
You can't. You can't. I was gonna ask you that while I was pulling up this lovely little metrodome for our lightning round get down.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Real
So
quick before we do this, I'm sorry, I got to ask. Did I
yeah,
get through the questions that you wanted to ask? I don't want to I don't want you to miss any. I don't have anything coming up for 20 minutes until I eat dinner.
yeah, we got through everything surprisingly.
Sweet.
Surprising, because usually I don't 3/4 of the time, but we used our time well.
Yes.
All right, so Cam, I'm gonna ask you 10 questions. They're kind of like a would you rather this or that type thing.
Okay.
If you want to, you can explain your answers. You do not have to. It is not a requirement. Here we go. First one is always the same: Lennon or McCartney.
Yes. I'm not answering otherwise.
Both of them. Okay.
Without Lennon, you don't have McCartney, and vice versa.
Okay. Ghostbusters or Ghostbusters 2?
Ghostbusters. That's a terrible question. Anyone that says 2 should go home. Okay.
I love
No,
Ghostbusters 2. I
I'm
really
not.
do.
But against Ghostbusters, it's okay to love Ghostbusters too, but you can't pick Terminator. You can't pick Jaws 3D over Jaws. You got, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta the OG because the first one was just perfect.
No, it is perfect. Yeah. M&M's or Reese's Pieces?
Reese's Pieces, unless you get the caramel M&Ms, and oh my goodness, I didn't think those were going to be good because who wants a caramel M&M? No, dude, throw those things in the fridge. Hey, the next time that you're about to walk into the basement, all right, like we talked about,
Yeah.
some caramel M&Ms. All right, you will not believe how good those things are.
Okay, I'll try them.
Yeah,
Dude, I love peanut butter M&Ms. Like those are my jam.
Yeah,
So
they took it up a step with the caramel. I really didn't think, but man, I was wrong. They're so good. But yeah, I would go Reese's of the normal. Yeah.
okay, cool. Firebird or Explorer?
I'm actually currently interested in buying an Explorer, but if you said a non-reverse Firebird over an Explorer, I would have chosen a non-reverse Firebird all day long.
Okay. Why?
I love the shape. They're not played a ton. Remember when Jazzmasters weren't like as ubiquitous as they are now? They were, a lot spottier in terms of who played them. That's the non-reverse. Everybody wants to be cool and original, but everybody picks up a Jazzmaster as a way of doing that, and ironically becomes like the rest of the others.
Right.
If you want to play a guitar that nobody's playing right now and you want it to be a cool offset, go buy a non-reverse Firebird. Those things are fucking rad. All the same, like accoutrement and all that a Firebird has, but just shaped a little bit differently. Shut up forever, Buddy Blues. All right. Shut up forever.
Also, earlier, Franklin's Tower is a Grateful Dead tune. It's a good one, but I'll send you something else because I have something else in mind. So I'll give you something.
All right. Well, I want you to, as an aside, I know we're doing this in lightning round. I don't do anything quickly. Anytime that Buddy Blues is giving you a hard time, just call him Buddy Boobs. It's a perfect. Right? Mr. Boobs doesn't do anything. All right. Don't listen to that guy.
Oh my god. Rage Against the Machine or Audio Slave?
That's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Audio Slave, but I think I like Rage better.
Okay.
I know that's weird. I know, but I think all right, here's the honest answer. I think I'm supposed to like Rage more. I think I'm supposed to want to feel smart enough to like Rage more,
Right.
but I like Audioslave better. I mean,
Can't
how
go
do you
wrong.
get around Chris Cornell's vocals? Like, how do you dare?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Like, it's just yeah. So like, the moment you say Audioslave, you start you immediately hear Chris's voice. I don't know about you, but I do. Like, I immediately
Oh,
hear him
100.
sing, and I don't feel that way about most music, but I hear Cornell enter my brain.
Immediately. Yeah, dude, when I woke up that morning and found out he had passed, I was like,
Dude, I have
Ugh.
so here's a funny story. If you want to kill that clip for 1 second, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrible at this. I have a buddy of mine. This is a true story. Who said when I was living in Australia, he's from Sydney. He was like, "Yo, let's start a band together." And I was like, "Hey, shut up." He was like, "What? Why not? I can be famous. I'm gonna be famous. I can write. I can walk into any guitar or any record label in Sydney and sign a record deal." And I was like, "Dude, you're 18. You don't know anything. Okay, so
Right.
stop talking. Just forever stop talking. I'm not starting a band with you." So we loved each other that we could be honest like that. And I was just like, it'll never happen. I'm not interested. I live in Georgia. I'm not, how do I make a drum kit here? I can't afford anything. I'm in college. That's a funny story because he went on to start a band called Gang of Youths, and they have become one of the most popular bands to come out of Australia. And their last major world tour was with Mumford and Sons.
Dang.
And I said, fuck off. I was like, I'm not interested. Thanks, though. The reason that's connected to the story is because when they were getting big, my best friend's a singer, and like one of the main songwriters, he was handpicked by Chris Cornell to open for Chris on a solo acoustic tour.
Dang.
There were two bills. There are two artists on the bill: Dave, my buddy, and Chris, and that was it. And so just the two of them just toured around. And I mean, like, I got chills. So when Chris died, I, was hurt for Chris, of course, but I was also like, my buddy's buddy, like and his hero just fuck, it's such
Yeah.
a sad one. That was a huge loss.
Yeah, that hit me pretty
Anyway,
hard.
yeah, that
Yeah.
one was a hard one. I had a hard time with Tom Petty. That was a weird one. Like, how there are some people that just transcend the rest.
Yeah.
And everyone only has good things to say because they're only good. Like, that was Tom.
Yeah. I
This is
know.
this is too soon, and it wasn't handled right, and just the whole thing.
Yeah, it felt blindsided a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the click. Okay, so I hate heights, but I find this to be interesting. Like, would you prefer to hang glide or skydive?
Oh, I would love to hang glide. That would be amazing. I'm actually terrified of heights, and I have zero interest, but
Me too.
I would love to hang glide. Like, the idea of if I could have any, it'd be flying, right? Like any superpower. I don't want to be invisible. I don't want to like grant wishes. I don't want to do that shit. I want to be able to fly. I want to soar through the air without the fear that I currently possess of going to the fourth store of my local mall. I want to. And so if I could do either, there's no need to just plummet out of a plane needlessly. I would prefer to maintain some control and enjoy it.
Yeah. Fair enough. For the freshen of the breath, Tic Tac or gum?
Gum. Tic Tacs don't freshen breath. Tic Tacs just get you to eat more Tic Tacs.
That's true. That's true. YouTube or Instagram?
Yeah.
YouTube or Instagram?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay.
I'm on a YouTube kick right now.
Okay.
You kind of oscillate. I'm on YouTube right now. Like, I'm watching a lot of YouTube.
It's like Cheez-Its and Goldfish. You got to kind of balance. You got to go back and forth.
Yeah. Like Doritos, nacho cheesy, or Cool Ranch. Like, they're both good.
Yeah, right. All right, here's one. This isn't like, superpower related, but like, would you rather have a time machine or be able to teleport?
Teleport.
Yeah. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Time machine would be amazing, but like, let's go somewhere.
Right.
Well, hold on. What would you choose?
I probably would want to teleport because I hate traveling. Like,
traveling is the worst.
It is the worst. But like, if I could have my bags and like, if my family was touching me and I could teleport to Hawaii instantaneously, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You know,
What was
in
that
my
movie
mind.
that came out a few years ago? So because I'm afraid of heights, I don't like to fly. I have travel anxiety in general. So like you want to go like pack up and wait at the airport for a few hours to ride on a shitty plane for a few more hours and then like have to
Right.
check in and get a car and no, I want to be in Cozumel 7 seconds from now.
Right.
Uh,
Dude, I know.
but
I'm going to NAM in April and I'm like, fly out to California. Like,
yeah, exactly.
so, but
Yeah, but I also am getting more into history. So if it was, a time like I would, what if I had to choose time travel, I would for sure go back to the beginning of the building of the pyramids so I could understand
oh,
what was actually happening so we could talk about that. Because
and
I'd
then you
like to
see a
like
bunch of aliens like the
or worse, not even aliens, just like pre-existing human civilization for which we didn't account. And it turns
yeah.
out they were just further than us, but the meteor was also bigger than our technology. So
Oh
you know
God.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I would love to go back and just find out like we're the third iteration of humans and we're the shitty version. That would be so amazing.
Oh yeah. That'd be cool. That would totally be cool.
Yeah,
All
like
right. Here's the last one. This is sometimes the hardest. So be prepared.
this hasn't been easy yet. So here we go.
Uh if you could take any record and erase it from your memory like you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and listen to it
Oh
and
man,
experience it for the first
yes,
time again.
that's really impossible.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
it would be pretty much anything by Led Zeppelin, anything by the Killers, anything by Mute Math, if you're familiar,
Mm-hmm.
anything by the Strokes, anything by Elvis. It would be the song Jolene.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, Jolene. Holy
Dolly.
shit, Jolene. It would be because I'm from Georgia. It would be a lot of Garth Brooks.
Okay.
In all honesty, like if I could erase my brain of music right now to go back and experience it, I totally would. I know that you're a Dawes fan too, so like the most recent Dawes record, I'd wipe and go back, and I would just keep
Ooh.
like what's the thing that Will Smith uses in Men in Black?
Oh yeah, like that little
I would just
neutralizer thing.
I'd
Yeah.
flash the shit out of myself.
Yeah.
I would love to. That would be no problem. I
That record is something else, man. Like, what's your favorite Dolls record in
that
general, though?
that
That
one.
one? I
Yeah,
mean, I still love We're All Gonna Die. I think that's my
yeah,
favorite record.
yeah. I have
But
you met This Is Nate or have you seen This Is Nathan? I think is what it's called.
mm-mm.
He reminds me of him in that same way. He's got this funny, very poetic like introversion that totally colors his how he communicates his perception of the world.
Oh, okay.
And so when you listen to Dawes, like there's just this melancholic like emotion that weaves in and out of every song that I
Mhm.
really, really resonate with. Like he's sad about something, whether he's sad or not. And I think
Right.
there's really beautiful about that. I don't know. I'm really drawn to sad songs.
Next month, you gotta tune in because Lee Pardini from Dawes, keyboard player, is gonna be on here.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. That's a hard question because you're asking me like which emotional experience do I want to have again? I mean,
Let's
like
just say it's the Misadventures of Doom Scroller. That works perfectly
that's,
fine.
that's such such a good even the title of that one. Let me think if there's anything else though. Um I think I have two like in my mind right now. I have two types of records. There's records that were so good that I had an emotional response, and then there are records that were playing during an emotional response that became
Yeah.
good. Like that was especially so as a teenager. Like there were records that were really, really amazing, but like they by themselves weren't impactful. But then I broke up with a girl and then like binged the shit out of Dashboard Confessional, and suddenly Dashboard has been given meaning, but didn't until the breakup, right? It was just like we kissed to that song. So like, there were those that I liked, like Reliant K was really big when I was that age. So like I want to go back and re-listen to that, but I know that if I did, it would be good. It would be emotional.
Yeah.
But then there are records I come across now. I also think this is something that I'm 34, so you'll get this hopefully in a way that I don't yet. I think the older I get, the more intentionally I listen to music in ways that I've never have in my life. Like
Mhm.
I'll sit down and I'll experience something, and usually I don't even hear the lyrics until about the fourth listen. Like I'm terrible with lyrics too, but I'll listen to the adventures, misadventures, and I'm so drawn to the music and the time changes and the groove and all of that. The fourth one, I go, oh, what's he singing about? And
Yeah.
so then it starts to take on this different emotional aspect and profile. But yeah, I don't know. That's it. What was your answer? Do you have one? Is it Pearl Jam?
Nah, I mean, people honestly, man, like people ask me that sometimes that are on the show, and like there's several, like, but like Jellyfish Spilt Milk is always a record that, and that was an emotional response. That was, I had a really bad breakup, and the guy that
And it became
one
emotional.
well, and one of the guys in my band, I'm not even kidding you. It was like I thought I was gonna marry this girl. It was like the end. I was at the end of my college career, and so it
Yeah.
was bad. It was a hard breakup. But he picked me up. One of my band members picked me up every single night and took me out, and we went and got a beer. And he exposed me to all this power pop stuff. So like Jellyfish, Owlsley. So
Yeah.
there's like the Owlsley's first record is amazing. So, I mean, I
That's
was a
funny.
huge Ben Folds fan. So I love like, and I'm a huge Beatles fan, but like power pop to me at that moment, like just completely healed me, you
Yeah,
know?
that's so funny that it'd be power pop. Like, what a funny response.
Hmm.
You think you dive into something more melodic and slower and just a different pace. Okay,
Oh,
so
I have one of those. Beck Sea Changes is another one.
yeah,
That's another one. How about
yeah.
you? Like what's a like a melancholy record that's
Well,
gets
I
you?
actually think I know the answer to the question. I think I know the answer. So you asked the answer and not just like
Okay.
me rambling through my thoughts. So I was going through a really, really rough patch in the summer of 2020, and not just because COVID was bad and the world was like completely inside out, but I had discovered a bunch of things about myself through therapy. And so the band I told you about with my best friend, Gang of Youths, became the soundtrack to that season of heartache. And it was a newer record, but it was also like really comforting and really beautiful for a myriad of reasons. Like one of the reasons was because my best friend and I have very similar upbringings that reflected itself in like the stuff I was going through at the time. So like
Mhm.
he had sing about it in 2019 on this record or 2017 or whatever. And then and then I was basically like singing about it, but like to his songs, it was like, oh shit, you had it too. And
Right.
I knew that's what it was. I knew that's what he was singing about because I knew his story and I knew exactly when he was referencing things. So it was a weird like someone was reading my journal and writing songs from it. And
Yeah.
so as I'm going through this record and it's all of the ups and the downs and all of the feelings and things, like it really scored the soundtrack to the summer of 2020's heartbreak and just figuring out over the course of, however many long months through like extreme therapy and tons of like self-work. I like understanding my self-worth as a man, as a human, as a husband, as a father, and all these things. And it was like through his music that there was any music attached to that time.
Yeah.
Because there are times that you go through like and the worst things that happen is like you can't relate to anything because the heartbreak's too much. I can't watch movies because they don't get me, I don't get them. I can't listen to music. My favorite band doesn't work for me right now.
Yeah.
My friends don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like that's a really hard thing. But on the other side, there's the other really special thing when you do connect with something musically in a really fabulous time in your life that scores it, or a really, really difficult time in your life that underscores it, right? Like whatever the thing is. And so that song gave life in a way that I come out of that season and my new word from that season was persevere. And that was from the record was the song persevere. Like I'm going to fucking persevere. And I think about like in one of his songs he sings, and I know I shouldn't be talking this much, but cut me off whenever. And one of the songs he sings about was about wanting to be loved and trusting himself and the rest of the world enough to be loved. Because it's not you've got to trust yourself enough to be able to respond or acknowledge the love that someone else offers you, right?
Oh
You've
yeah.
got to be in a place to or willing to. And so hearing him sing about that and then sing about perseverance, Like, you know what? I do want to be loved. I don't want to look at it as a device that's out to hurt me. I don't want to look at it as the thing that was made to destroy me. Instead, I want to embrace it and experience it. I know it's good. I know I've had it. I want more of it. And I
Mhm.
think that in spite of what I've developed in my own personal narrative, I know that I am worthy of love, and I'm going to persevere as I continue to experience it and give it and receive it with my family. So
Yeah.
that was like, if I could go back and re-listen to one to get back into that place and channel those things, just because of how important it was for me as a man to um embrace love, like I would absolutely go back.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And I think, just as a last quote, when we're talking songs, like if you think about Jeff Buckley's Last Goodbye, that line about kiss me, please kiss me out of desire, not obligation.
Yeah.
That line always hit me real hard. It's like
Yeah.
that, it's a similar concept in a way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it is. It totally is. It's, I want to kiss you not because I have to, because I
mhm,
want to, and I want you to kiss me because you want. Yeah,
yeah.
that was exactly what that was, and it was a weird, like coming of age at 30.
Yeah,
You
dude,
know,
it
'cause
it happens, man.
oh, I mean, like around 30 is when you really have your first, like your first set of existential crises,
Yeah.
Like that's where you really are like, oh fuck, nothing means anything.
I know,
Yeah,
I know,
in
I
your
know.
30s. As soon as you turn 30, you just gotta fall off the wagon one good time to know just
Yeah.
how small you are in this universe.
And everything level sets and it's all okay. Everything turns out all
If
right.
you
Yeah,
if you survive the existential crisis, it gets better.
it totally does. Well,
Brother,
Cam,
good time.
dude, thank you so much. Everybody check out all these links. Big shout out to BV in the chat for
Thanks,
being the
baby.
moderator. We got some Twitter.
Tweeter with 2 eyes.
We got some Facebook. We got some YouTube-ish.
Yeah, all the
Every
uses.
and then obviously on Instagram, Gibsunday. Follow that. Please follow that. It's super fun. Beautiful, beautiful pictures show up on that every week, and it's glorious. So
Thanks.
make sure you
There's
check it.
tons of fun stuff planned for 23 as well. So more and more and more.
Dude, thank you so much for making some time. And I mean, we could talk for another 3 hours, I'm sure, but
Okay, let's go. I'll go get you back in here.
go get some coffee.
Yeah.
Dude, for real, Cam, thank you so much for everything.
Brilliant,
It's
man.
been amazing to get to know you,
Yeah.
and
Thanks, Andy.
I hope we get to hang out in person one day.
Dude, come in Nashville. I'll take
Yeah,
you to the vault.
let's do it.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
brother.
ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.